Thank you for tuning in to another episode with Mrs. Danielle DeVita. I am Danielle. So, I mentioned that we were talking about the fruit of the Spirit and that there were nine. And you've heard me talk about maybe about six of them already. So, I'm going to go ahead and do a longer video and talk about goodness, faithfulness, and self control. All of these are important. I wanted to do them separate, but I think we can break them up in to little parts and talk about it a little more. So let's get started with goodness. And if you do not know where it is in the Bible, it is in Galatians 5. Now, you say, why are you talking about this? What does this have to do with relationships? This is a fruit of the Spirit that we're supposed to have. And as a married woman, I believe having these particular um, things, so love, joy, peace, gentleness, patience, goodness, faithfulness, um, kindness, self-control, all of those things are something that you need to be a wife. These are things you need to be a great husband. And when we don't have these things and we think all we need is love to make a relationship work, then you are going to be sadly mistaken, especially as the years come by. So, um, love encompasses all of these particular things that you're going to need. Patience, right? So let's get started with goodness. Uh, and the reason why I say this is because a lot of times people say, "Well, I don't think you should mix the Bible. You should mix things that are godly into relationships." But men talk about submission all the time. This is something from the Bible. So if you're not into the Bible, then I wouldn't ask a woman to submit at all. Just use the word respect. Essentially, they mean the same thing, of course, with different connotations. However, if you're going to talk about submission, but you don't want to talk about the other stuff, then don't try to act as if you are this godly person, right? So if you want a good wife, goodness is one of the things she's going to need. If you want a wife who is wife material, then love, then joy, then peace, a woman who's patient, kind, one who's faithful, the one who can practice self-control, all these things are needed. And if you are a woman and you want to have a good man, he's going to need patience, right? He is going to need to have love and gentleness to some extent, right? Self-control, all of these things, right? So a woman who I can talk about what a good husband does, but as a woman, I'm saying a good wife is someone who express, everything about her is a good deed. Everything she does, she's not doing it to get points or to get this or get that, or she does. Basically, there's no ulterior motive, right? This is a woman who is actually genuinely trying to be a good woman. She is trying to be a woman who is a good person, a good mother, a good wife. She is just trying to all around, and everything that she does, she's trying to be a good person. And this is one of those things that it takes some of the other fruit of the Spirit to do. It is going to take patience on both your part and her part. It's going to take you extending grace to her. It's going to take her to get the healing that she needs if she's had past relationships or past childhood that is that hurt her, and not allowing her to let her goodness shine. It takes a woman to understand not just womanhood and her femininity, but understand it coming from a good place, because you can have those things and it comes from a bad place. You want someone who is expressing goodness in her actions and in her words. What are the things that are coming out her mouth? Are she saying things that are toxic and bad? Are her motives bad? Or is everything with good intentions and it has a good deed to it? Is she thankful? Because all of that is part of being good as well. Now we have to understand that being good is not necessarily a woman who is domestic. And what I mean by that is she's not a good wife because she can cook, because she can clean. Those are extras, right? Because you don't necessarily have to have a wife to do that. I think some of those things are great for budget wise, rather than going out and buying food. You can cook at home. You can, be a person who's clean. I'm just all about, like, cleanliness is something that you want, right? Everyone wants that, right? But if you are a good person in general, so you're not just trying to be good for your spouse, but you're generally being a good person, you're going to bring positive energy around you. You're going to bring people around you that have the same mindset as you. If you are a bad person, a bad seed, and you're sowing bad seeds, you're just going to get all types of rotten fruit around you. People who are rotten, they're rotten in their ways, their motives, their attitudes, and one bad apple can spoil the whole bunch. So you basically need to be careful about the friends you keep, because eventually they can corrupt you, right? And people say, oh no, that's not true. If you're around, if you're a woman listening, would you want your husband or your boyfriend to be around a whole bunch of men who are no good to society, or just not good husbands or boyfriends at all? Would you want him to surround himself with that? You don't think, even if he was a good person, that eventually they could get in his head? If you are a man, you don't care about the friends that your wife or your girlfriend has. You don't think eventually that's going to affect her in some way, listening to that in her head continually about what, men are bad, no men are good, everyone is this and everyone is that, and it's always something negative. You don't think that's going to eventually get in her head? Well, I would say this: if you don't think that, then you are seriously mistaken. So again, goodness is all about a person's behavior and their attitude, and why, the motives, and why they do the things they do. So if everything is toxic and deceptive, and it was, you're only being feminine just to get this kind of guy, if you're only being like the woman in the Queen Latifah movie in Just Right, where the Paula Patton lady, where she was basically she was playing this role of what what a good woman looks like. She's charitable, and she's just wake up like this, and she's thoughtful. Then you are eventually, people are going to see that you were not genuine. You're not an authentic person. But if you're someone who is, you're being you, right? And of course, we are different people in different settings. I can attest to that. If I'm in a surrounding that I don't know versus what I do know, if I'm around work or family, I could have a different vibe about me. So understanding that you can have different vibes about you, but just you, anyone around you, no matter where they are, they can actually say, this is a good person, right? Her thoughts are still the same thoughts she had here as there, right? Her views, her standards are the same. So if you are someone who is saying, well, I'm a good person, and I generally have people who are good to come towards me, then that's a good sign. But I'm hearing a lot when I did coaching a lot, that people are good, but they are bringing attention to people they don't want. So you have to think about, if you're a good person, look at then your outward appearance. If you're genuinely a good person on the inside, you have a good heart, you have a positive mindset, and other people can attest to it, and then you're still bringing about negative friends or negative people who want to be in a relationship with you, ask, is there something I'm wearing? Is it my friends around me? What is it I'm doing that makes them think otherwise? Maybe you can ask that person, what made you think this? And some people, you may not have done that, but they will just try you. And the thing is, if they try you, then you let them know you're not the one to be tried. And this is not about doing it in a negative manner or with an attitude. You just let them know, what, I'm not into games, or, this is not me, this is not what I want, and then stand by it. Don't budge, don't change, because then you want them to know that you were genuine in what you said, not that you changed it for them, or you made a change for them, right? I think it's pretty straightforward about what goodness means, right? What are your thoughts? Are your thoughts good? Is your mindset overall good? And when you think about joy, I kind of look at it as the same thing. Are you always thinking about the silver lining in things? Well, when in goodness, are you always, thinking about the good, thinking about happy thoughts? Are you always thinking about, how can I do for others without trying to get back? Is there a tick for tat, or are you demanding reciprocity? Is that why you do what you do, or you're doing it out of the goodness of your heart? That is being good. You're being genuine, and you're doing it because you want. And sometimes people don't think you're genuine. Like I could easily say, well, I want to help you. Let me know if you need anything. People just say it. But when I say it, I mean it. So if you were to ask of something, you're going to get something back. And so people won't know until they test that. And you just have to allow people to test your goodness, that you were genuinely good. And sometimes if you're a woman, men will test. Now, so let's talk about faithfulness. And faithfulness, you could easily think of that as being faithful in a relationship, as far as not, cheating or emotionally or physically cheating on your spouse or boyfriend or girlfriend. But I'm here to say that faithfulness is a lot more than that. Are you faithful to the vows that you said to them? Are you faithful to what you said that you wanted out of the relationship? Are you faithful all the way through? Because when you think about faithfulness, it's more than just saying it. You have to truly believe it. And if someone truly believes something, their actions are going to show that they believe it. So do you believe that this is a good man? Then why do you doubt him all the time? Do you believe that this is a good woman? Why do you doubt her all the time? So faithfulness can also, because if you're jealous all the time, then you're not faithful to what you said that you are not faithful, and you don't think that they're faithful to the vows that you all said. And relationships, so even if you're not married, you can have some type of vow that you say to each other, even though it's unspoken, like we won't cheat, we will be exclusive, right? Sometimes people do say it expressly, and sometimes people, it's just unspoken, that when you're in a relationship. Similarly, if you're married, you're not going to cheat, you're not going to have evil deeds of what you plan to do, ulterior motives, right? We believe that we're exclusive, it's going to be us, we're going to want to make this relationship work, and everything we do is to further that success in that relationship. Most people believe that, whether you're married or in a relationship, you are going to believe that the other person wants to further the relationship. So if you believe that, then you're faithful to the thought that we're both furthering the relationship. So jealousy won't come in between you, right? Because when you have faith, there's no doubt. So you're not doubting this person that they're not going to do what they can to make the relationship work, unless this person has done something to show that they cannot be trusted in that. So then you no longer have faith in them. So I hope that makes sense. But sometimes we think that, oh, if you're faithful, you were faithful to not cheating. But also, someone can emotionally shut down in a relationship. They're not cheating, but they shut down emotionally. So are you faithful in making this relationship work? Are you religiously trying to make this relationship work? Are you faithfully praying for them? Are you faithfully thinking about them and thinking the best happens to them? Or are you now upset because you're not getting your way? Are you faithful in knowing that this person is going to provide, and this person is going to do her part, right? When you have lost your way in the faithfulness, this is when you guys need to have a conversation. You don't need to wait till you get married. You can have this conversation even when you're dating. But sometimes people have lost faith and they stop trying. That's generally what it is. You stop trying because you no longer have faith that the relationship is going to work, and that you don't have faith that the other person is going to do what they need to do to make the relationship work. But we have forgotten that we can talk to the other person. We just get to the point where we talk at each other and we yell at each other because we're not getting what we want. But we really could be talking to the other person and telling them where we feel like we're doubting the relationship because of something we seen, because of something that we didn't feel like we trusted. So hopefully, if you're in this situation, you can actually have a sit down and a conversation with your significant other, whether you're married or not, and you can move from there. Because I think what I've noticed is people are not having conversations. They skip the conversation part. They just go straight to the you do, you don't. You do this, you don't do this. So now I'm mad, and now I'm ready to yell at you, talk at you, and then we separate and we move on. But we don't look at the mindset of why this person is doing this, and then say, okay, well, instead of me guessing why they did it and why they didn't, let me just ask. But not in a negative way. Ask, hey, you know what? I noticed this is happening. Can we talk? Sometimes we skip the asking. Is this a good time to talk? Can we talk? Can we talk later? Can we discuss this? Instead, we go straight to the yelling. And I've learned that yelling doesn't help the relationship to get better. It doesn't. It makes it worse. All right. The next thing I want to talk about is self-control. And over this portion of it, I am going to, because I have to get some food ready for the week and get some fruit ready. So while I cut up some fruit, I will talk about self-control, and we'll do some analogies with that. Hopefully that will also encourage you guys to eat better. with that, but we're going to talk about self control. So take a listen while I cut up some fruit.
Ooh, self control. So many people think that self control has to do with controlling our urges, our lustful urges. Maybe whether it's infidelity or just our urges um, in a sexual manner. However, self control has a lot to do with just controlling even our attitude, things that we say and do. Sometimes we want to lash out on our emotions, say certain things, do certain things, but self control says, hey, I know you're upset. I know you're angry. I know you're irritated. I know you're sad or whatever it is. But this is what we're going to do. We're going to handle ourselves with dignity. Whether we're a man or a woman, we're going to control the urges that we have to be toxic. And we are going to sprinkle a little love in it. Grace, mercy, understanding, patience. Oh my God. Sometimes you may want to lash out, but only if you waited a few more seconds. Sometimes people are just testing us to see how we're going to respond. I notice as a woman, men tend to do this, especially in dating. And you may fail the test if you a woman who lash out. And I'm not for games. So if you're a person that you feel like you're often being tested, you tell the person you're not for games. But I do think it's not just in relationships we're tested. We're tested in life. We're tested on the job. We're tested in our careers, business. We're tested, and people tend to be skeptical, and they tend to test people to see how they're going to respond in this difficult situation. What are they going to do? And so this is why it's important to practice self-control, not just in our relationships, but in every areas of our life. This is not necessarily about lust. This is about controlling our emotions, learning to be emotionally intelligent, learning to be mature. And part of maturity is practicing self-control, having enough wisdom to understand when to say things, when not to say things. This is not just for women. This is for men too. Sometimes as men, we allow, sometimes as men allow us as women to control them. So if a woman is upset, we tend to get a man to do or say certain things. When a woman is sad or whatever she's feeling, how she's feeling, she can kind of push off that energy onto a man to get a rise out of him. No matter what kind of rise it is, she knows what buttons to push. Just like you, as men, know what buttons to push to get a woman riled up, to be, you know, fall in love with you, so to speak, or I should say head over heels, or to just do what you want. And so I think when we learn that, hey, these people are not, we're not going to be a puppet for certain people or for anyone. We have autonomy over ourselves. And the thing I don't understand is women, us as women, we have so much rights that we want, right? We want the right to control our body, control, how much pay, just to have autonomy over us, ourselves. But there's so much that we can't control that we don't. We can control who can come in and out of our lives. In most cases, we can control who impregnate us. And the reason why I say most, because of course there's people who are violated, right? But we can control um, what we say, what we do, how we respond to certain things. But it seems like we don't want control over that, the things that matters, because we can control who comes into our lives. So we essentially have control over our bodies, but we're saying the government is controlling our bodies. But we control who come between our legs, who impregnate us. We have so many things out there to even prevent so many situations. And we're not just talking about just motherhood, but preventing people from coming into our lives. So many red flags that we can easily see before we continue to move forward. So many times that we could have just walked away from a situation. So many times where we could have just said, I'm not going to deal with this. So many crossroads, right? But instead, we picked the wrong battles. So instead of saying, I'm not going to be with someone who mistreats me physically, I'm not going to be with someone who calls me out my name, I'm not going to be with someone who is a scammer or a deceiver or a liar or someone who does things illegally. No, we won't do that. But we'll say, you know what? I refuse to be with a man who takes me to um, a chain restaurant. I refuse to be with someone who doesn't open my door. I refuse to be with someone who doesn't give me flowers. I refuse. So we nitpick these things, but not the things that necessarily matters. And I feel like life is like fruit. Life is like fruit. You see, there's these seeds in fruit, and we're not supposed to eat those things. But sometimes we eat it and it doesn't taste as good, and we wonder why. You know, apples are really good, but did you know that apples, the center of the apple, it has some toxins in it, and it can be poisonous if it's eaten, that whole core, right? Sometimes we're like that. We're told not to eat the core. We're told not to eat the seeds and things like that, but to eat the actual, flesh of the fruit. Yet still, we'll eat the seeds or we'll eat the core, and we're wondering why we're sick. And this is a lot like the relationships that we're in. All relationships aren't good for us, but we get into those relationships and now we're wondering why. Why are we hurt in this relationship? Why are we mistreated in this relationship? And we didn't see it coming, and it just came out of nowhere. But it's not true. It didn't come out of nowhere. It was right there in the center, but we chose to ignore it. We ate around it. Everything was good because it didn't hit home yet. But now when it's time to take that big bite, we bit into the toxins. Self-control is one of those things that if you spin out of control, sometimes it's hard to get back in control. And that's what therapy is. That's what life coaching is, where people just help you get back on track. So definitely, if you need coaching, if you need a therapist, you should get it, because healing can really help get you back on track. Sometimes we think, oh, we got it, we're good, but we don't have it until you truly deal with the issue. And hey, why am I feeling like this? Why am I lunging out? Oh, it's because I had a past experience.
Ask them for food and y'all ain't even eating.
Oh, you already gave him something to eat?
Yeah. They talking about, I'm hungry. I'm hungry.
Dad, that's not how we sound.
No, you saying that sound. I'm hungry.
That's not
Xander
how
out there poking in his stomach. I need food. I need food.
Dad, that's not how we sound. That's how we sound.
That's how y'all sound. Y'all ain't eating that.
And sometimes we could say, well, I recognize it, so now it's not going to happen again. But until you deal with it, sometimes it's going to be this afterthought. I recently got my hair blown out because I had to get my ends trimmed. And when I was a little girl, there's this lady, she, was curling my hair, and she was talking to someone else, but she was moving too fast, and she burnt my ear. It touched my ear, but this was the hot curlers that used to be in that hot oven. She hit my ear, and then she's like, oh, I'm sorry. She did it again, same ear. And I think she did it about the second, maybe 2 or 3 times. Anyway, she got it to the white meat. And ever since that time, my ear was hurting really bad. And I think even to this day, it gets a little dry or irritated. I always have to put something on it. Or maybe it's just me in my head now. But the point that I'm trying to make is, even to this day, when I have to get my hair blown out and I have that, flat iron, when they put the flat iron so close to my ear, even though it doesn't touch my ear, I still kind of feel like, okay, I don't want to touch my ear. I don't want that steam to get too close. And it takes me all the way back to that moment when I was 12 years old. Now, I don't think I've had anyone to get my ear. Yeah, sometimes the sting could be too close to my head or something, but this is how it is in relationships. We've been hurt and we think we're going to deal with it, but sometimes that pain or that thought comes back and we flinch. You need to get coaching to get the help that you need to deal with those things. Right. And of course, in every situation, coaching is not going to always help. Just learning to recognize, you know what? I'll be all right. Have enough faith to see it through. So if you're someone who think you have it all together, I can control myself, I can control my urges, ask someone else. Ask someone, do I control? Do say, hey, do I control my tongue? Do I control my actions? Do I do things all willy-nilly? Or does it seem like I'm someone who think twice before doing? I'm slow to anger and I'm quick to listen. Am I that person? And see what people say. Don't ask people who are jealous of you, of course. Ask people who genuinely want the best for you. And then learn and grow from it. Learn and grow from it. It's hard. It's hard. I was just talking to my mom. We were talking about criticism. And it's hard to receive criticism. And there's a way you can do it. There's a way you can tell someone how they made you feel without them feeling defeated and things like that. So self-control. Yes, self-control is hard, but I hope that in listening to this video, you understand that self-control is not all about your feelings of lust or anything like that, but it's learning to be mature and emotionally intelligent and understanding that. Thank you for listening.
And I hope that you have enjoyed this series of Fruit of the Spirit. I am going to pray about what my next one should be. I talked about wisdom, which I still think we're going to still have an underlying theme of wisdom. And we talked about the fruit of the Spirit. And it seems like this is not a big topic for many people because people are just pretty much either they either don't have a religion or they're doing their own thing or they don't really believe that religion and relationship will work. But I'm here to say that it can be successful if you practice it, of course, not just to say you're a part of one, because I truly believe that a man is at his best when he has something to look to instead of thinking he is the top. Same thing for a woman. All right. So thank you for tuning in to this series. Take care.